What's up, everybody? Big Ben coming back. Art Rooney, team president, released a statement on Wednesday morning right before we started recording Going Deep and said, let me just pull it up here actually, but he said that basically they met yesterday and like the agent and a few media reports had said that it went well. Let's see where it is here. Statement from Art Rooney. Ben Roethlisberger and I met yesterday morning. We had a productive meeting. We were able to discuss a lot of things that relate to where we are and where we want to go. Ben assured me that he is committed to coming back to help us win. And I told Ben that we would like to have him back to help us win a championship. We both understand that the next step is to work out Ben's contract situation. Okay. So this we knew, and there was a lot of discussion, a lot of thought about should he come back, will he come back, why would he come back? Marquise Pouncey retires. Does that mean that he's not going to come back now? I liked what his agent Ryan Tollner said yesterday in the statement that they released, that Ben's party or camp or whatever released. And he said the ending of last year didn't sit well with him. It did not sit well with him, just like it didn't sit well with me or you or any Steeler fan out there, rightfully so. So there's that part of me, and I wrote about it yesterday on BarstoolSports.com. There's that part of me that says this is a good thing. Ben coming back. He didn't like how last year ended. He's got one last ride, one last shot for him to do hopefully something special. Maybe a Jerome Bettis style. I don't know. Saw that in 2004. He was going to retire. People thinking he was done. He came back for one last ride. They put together that miraculous hope. That's what the terrible towel-waving Steelers fan in me wants to think. But what gets me is that there's people out there that still say, and feel free to comment, and I'd love to shoot back and forth with anybody who has thoughts and opinions on it. What gets me is that people are so quick to push him out the door, especially in 2021, because what is the realistic option for 2021 and then really even 2022 that would give the Steelers the best chance to do anything at the quarterback position? I don't really see one. People are really, really high on Mason Rudolph because of how he played in Week 17 against a depleted Cleveland Browns team, and they were playing for their playoff lives, but it was a meaningless game for the Steelers. How quickly we forget that in 2019 he was benched for my guy Duck Hodges, who came in and brought a spark to the Steelers offense because Mason wasn't getting the job done. I just don't understand how people can keep forgetting it that quickly. And yes, Ben has his faults, and yes, he's getting older, and yes, you're definitely on the back nine at the end of his career. That's all fine, but at the same time, you can't look at me realistically and say in 2021, for the 2021 Steelers, that Big Ben isn't the best option or the option that would make the most sense. You got to roll with Mason Rudolph? Are you okay with 7-9 when you have a defense that we've been wanting for years and years? You're just okay with wasting the primes of TJ Watt and Stephon Tuitt and Mika Fitzpatrick and Devin Bush and coming back healthy and the end of Cam Hayward. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with just saying, yeah, let's just plan for our future and waste what we have around when Big Ben, as he showed for the first 11 games, you saw the spark of it in the Colts game in the second half, can still make plays, can still play the quarterback position better than any other option that the Steelers are going to realistically have in 2021. Mason is not it. Ryan says, I would rather see Haskins play over Mason. Again, I think people are going to get caught up in Dwayne Haskins coming to town and saying, hey, why don't we give this guy a shot? We're not to that point yet. I think that you can say in one hand, Big Ben doesn't need to come back. Sure. Or the end of Big Ben is coming. The end of Big Ben is coming. Yes, I agree with you. And if he would have walked away this year, fine. But he's not walking away. So now that we know that he's not walking away, you can't sit here and say that the organization and the team doesn't want him to come back to give them the best shot to win in 2021 rather than drafting a quarterback in the second or third round or rolling with Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins and doing a 2-quarterback system. Whenever Mason's not hot, put in Dwayne. Whenever Dwayne's struggling, put in Mason. That's not going to work. The best you're going to get is 7-9 or 8-8 with those two guys as your quarterback. That's just how it is. Now, if they want to make a move in the draft, package the 24th pick with maybe next year's first-round pick and another third-round pick or something like that, and a player to go up to get somebody at 10 or 11 or 13, like a Trey Lance, or if they feel good about Mac Jones, all right. Then we ride out with Big Ben like we know is going to happen. Sayonara, Big Ben, right into the sunset, Cowboy, even if you're not winning the Super Bowl in 2021, and then you bring in your new guy. But just the fact that so many people are just so ready to get Ben Roethlisberger out the door and are so upset about him wanting to come back and the Steelers wanting him back, I just don't know what the other options are. And I don't know what the answer you want is. Because I'm not okay with just 7-9 and 8-8. Because, okay, well, Big Ben's out the door, so now we at least see what we got with Mason or Dwayne Haskins. I don't want to see what we got with a defense like we have. I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste TJ Watt and Devin Bush and Minkah Fitzpatrick and all these investments we've made on the defensive side of the ball to see what Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins has. I don't want to do that. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Heath, Najee, the Bama running back in round 1, even if we have to move up a bit. And that's another thing. You bring Big Ben's coming back, okay? You invest your draft picks in either Najee Harris, if you love him, and he's there. Najee Harris, and you have to invest and inject some youth into that offensive line. You just have to. You just have to. And that's what they're going to do. So you're going to have Dodson at left guard. They're going to have a center and a left tackle. One of them is probably going to be the first-round pick. I would be all right with Najee Harris, but one of them is probably going to be the first-round pick. You invest in an offensive line a little bit more. You inject some youth into it. Hopefully it gives some more life into Big Ben's legs down the stretch. And we roll from there. Thanks, good fella. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys chiming in. Subscribe to this channel. I got a project coming next week that I'm really, really excited about. That I think is, I kind of look with this hat on right now. My hair is kind of Cole Tucker-esque, for all the Yinzers out there, the Bucko fans. He's dating Vanessa Hudgens, man. That's wild. Chris says Mason is not it. Even if you take a second or third round quarterback to learn behind Ben this year or something, not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, that's what Mason Rudolph is. A third-round pick. So the Steelers are just, it's a lot like my hometown where I currently live, in Indianapolis, and they just made that move for Carson Wentz, right? It's a lot like that where the Steelers find themselves in just a really tough position because the roster is good enough, just like the Colts was, to be 23 plus in the draft in the first round, but their quarterback position necessarily isn't good enough to be a favorite to go to the Super Bowl. Well, you have to. What do you do? I mean, again, I'm not for one that's going to be, let's just figure out what we got in Haskins and Rudolph. I do not want to do that. I don't know many people who would want to do that. Thanks, Adam, for joining. Najee Harris would be good. I know they met with Mac Jones. Big Ben to Big Mac. I don't know. I know my guy Alex Kozora really likes Mac Jones, and I trust him. He's a film guru. He's always watching film and grinding out stuff like that. So I trust him in that front. I know they've met with Najee Harris, a few offensive linemen, a lot of defensive, a few edge rushers as well. I think Jalen Phillips from Miami. You have to think about Bud Dupree is not going to be coming back. So even as stacked as the defense is, there is still things like another pass rusher, like corner, that you got to, like depth at linebacker that you got to worry about there. But still, man, we waited far too long in the latter half of Big Ben's career to have a defense like you have with the playmakers like they have to just say, get Roethlisberger out the door and let's see what Rudolph and Haskins have. I don't want to do that. So I'm Okay with Ben Roethlisberger coming back. I am glad that we're on the same page. You give Big Ben a full offseason, hopefully, to where he can continue to not as much in a pandemic world, and for whatever Big Ben does, get into shape a little bit. And more into shape, in terms of rehab, and then a full offseason with his guys, a full offseason with a new offensive coordinator, a Matt Canada, putting things together, and hopefully not have a – that's another thing. Down the stretch, the Steelers had the most stagnant, predictable, boring, ridiculous offense in the league. So not only was the offensive line getting older and banged up, you don't have a running game, but defenses damn near knew what the Steelers were going to do. I had my mother on second down knowing what Coach Randy was going to call. Get a new offensive coordinator, inject some life into some things, get more creative on offense. All these things are okay. Goodfellow, what's your take on free agency and the cap moves? Yeah, obviously don't have a lot of cap space. Now, Cam Hayward restructured to open up $7 million. Big Ben's going to hopefully have to – that's the next part of that statement from Art Rooney. We both understand the next step is to work out Ben's contract situation. Hopefully you restructure that a little bit to where that frees up a little bit of cash, but even if that does happen, you're not going to have a bunch of money to spend, so I wouldn't expect for J.J. Watt or anybody like that to come to Pittsburgh. Now, I have seen that there could be possibilities for a Jesse James, for a B.J. Finney, a few Pittsburgh reunions on that front to come back, and I'd be cool with that. But, yeah, I wouldn't expect any huge splashes in free agency. Adam Hastings, how confident are you in Alex Highsmith? I'm excited. He's drafted Woodley's number well so far. I have hope. Yeah, Alex is actually a buddy of mine. We talked fairly regularly during the season. I'm super confident in Alex. I think what he showed down the stretch after Bud Dupree went out in his rookie season alone, with everything, all the extenuating circumstances going on, no less, that Alex Highsmith has a potential to be a really, really good pass rusher. We saw in the Colts game and in the Browns game. The Colts game won in the second half. He had a few of those spin moves and pass rushes that put pressure on Phillip Rivers, made him get rid of the ball earlier than what he needed to, forced a pick by Mike Hilton, if you remember that down the stretch. And then he did the same. He was getting held like crazy in Cleveland in Week 17. They just refused to call it. But I have a lot of faith in him. He's shown the ability to be able to not only rush the passer, but he's stout against the run. You can't block him with a tight end. He's dropped into coverage. We've seen him have a couple of pass breakups against Jacksonville, I remember, and then the interception against Baltimore. I got a lot of faith in Alex. And I'll miss Bud a lot. He's a hell of a player. He's turned into a hell of a player. But where Alex Highsmith is heading into his second season compared to where Bud Dupree was heading into his second season, I think is leaps and bounds. So I have a lot of faith in Alex Highsmith. Heath wants to know about J.J. Watt. Yeah, I don't really know because I've seen a few different reports or rumors out there. I guess one or two of them have been from like ESPN folks that say that right now, like, it's between the Packers and the Steelers, and like JJ is, there's a good chance that he could become a Steeler according to their reports. I think like Dan Graziano maybe said that. Don't quote me on that, but I just, unless that want and desire for him to be with TJ and Derek that much and finish his career for a legendary franchise like the Steelers, unless those two factors outweigh the money and the ring chase, I just have a really hard time seeing that happen, because the Steelers don't have a lot of money to give to him. And even if he will take a pay cut, let's be honest, if you look at Green Bay or a few of the other teams that he's been rumored to be interested in, I mean, the way the Steelers ended last season, you cannot say honestly right now, yeah, they give JJ the best shot out of those teams to get a ring, unfortunately. Now, I'm pray that I'm wrong. I pray that all these things work out. Big Ben rides off in the sunset with a ring. Maybe JJ's there. That'd be awesome. But I don't think it's likely. From Zach, free agency, Juju or Mike Hilton, if you could re-sign one, which, wow, that's a really good question, Zach. Honestly, throw Cam Sutton in there too. I love Juju. I think Juju is a great Steeler. I love what he brings, not only on the field, but I love his personality, even with all the TikTok bullshit and all that stuff. I love Juju. But when I look at how hard it is to draft and hit successfully on slot corners and defensive playmakers like Mike Hilton or Cam Sutton, as compared to what it is now to draft a receiver that can be successful, especially with how the Steelers draft receivers, I think you have to lean Mike Hilton or Cam Sutton, one of those. I really do. They are puzzle pieces on that defense that have a big impact, and you can feel them when they're gone. So I love Juju, but simply just because I think his position is easier to draft and reload at than a slot corner. From let's see, thoughts on I just answered that. Does anyone here really think that Tomlin can get the Steelers into a Super Bowl contender? I mean, he's already done that in his career multiple times. So I know that was years ago, but like you can't take that away from him. I got faith in Coach T. I hope that the coordinator switch on offense really helps. But, then I look back at the things that Cleveland was doing in the playoff game, and then we seen film from 2 years ago. 2 years ago where the Chargers were doing the same stuff, lining up Keenan Allen in the slot, getting the matchup out of empty with a linebacker, and that's exactly what Cleveland was doing in the playoff game. And the lack of adjustment, the lack of preparation, how do you not know that's what's going to happen? I mean, that's really frustrating. So I have faith in Coach Tomlin. He's done what a lot of people can't do, but man, sometimes those lack of adjustments or whatever is just really, really tough. Really, really tough. Heath says, I'd cut Derek Watt and bring back Nix. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like week in and week out, fullback talk on Steelers Twitter was just outrageous because we'd either not see Derek Watt at all, or we'd see Derek Watt back to back on short yardage situations run the exact same play. I mean, that's kind of just how the last 5 or 6 weeks for the Steelers went last year, unfortunately. So a lot of I just hope that the end of last season really serves as a fuel, a fire, a humbling experience for a lot of those young guys and a lot of players on the team, man, because, I mean, they're rolling 11-0. Everything was hunky-dory and gravy, and then things started turning, and once that tide started turning, it really just washed everything away really, really badly. So I hope it's a learning experience, not only for a veteran like Ben, but obviously for the young guys, and they can rally together and we can make something happen here in 2021, bouncing back after what was just an absolute disaster shit show for the last 6 weeks. Yeah, I mean, those stats are tough to argue, that's for sure. But the Steelers are a franchise that obviously believes in consistency, and they've been the model of consistency when it comes to those positions and head coaches and the coaching staff, maybe to a fault. But at the end of the day, when you look at Big Ben coming back again, the defense that they have, I just don't see them making a whole transition over to a new coaching staff. That's just not the Steeler way, right or wrong, and that's just not going to happen. So as much as we want to talk about it and waste our breath on Tomlin's playoff record and lack of adjustments and everything like that, he's going to be the head coach. Matt Canada is going to be the offensive coordinator, and Keith Butler is going to be the defensive coordinator. And Danny Smith, probably be around too. That's just how it's going to go. So all we can do is just hope to God that there is more creativity, more innovation offensively, and more adjustments made defensively for next year. They still have a bunch of players, man. You just got to ride with Big Ben out into the sunset, dude. That's all we can do. That's it. That's the option that we've been given. That's all we can do. We can't complain anything about it. Yeah, I mean, you have to think. Adam makes a great point. Devin White was huge down the stretch. That's what we drafted. That's what we traded up from 20 to 10 to get Devin Bush. People forget that he was out after week 6 last year with a torn ACL. Got to get him back to the middle of that defense with Bud. Rob Spillane, love you, but Devin Bush was brought in at the 10th pick to do exactly that, to wreak havoc, and he missed that on the defense last year. He really did. So stay healthy there. More innovation, more creativity on offense, and let's roll with Big Ben. That's all we can do. That's the only choice that we have, guys. So 20 minutes, good little chat. Thanks for hopping on here. Hopefully a lunch break or whatever. Going to try to do more of this. Subscribe to the channel. Project coming next week that I'm really excited about. I'll talk to you guys there.